Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with a very long and detailed video playing with and reviewing the Arteza's watercolor pan set and also their watercolor sheets. In this case, it's their watercolor pads. These are both in their premium line. They do have an expert, they do have a premium. So think about the expert would be artist grade, your premium is for student grade, and then if I'm not mistaken, there is another level, but I haven't seen them. So I usually stick with the premium and the expert. I do have the expert in both the colored pencils, which that one will be coming out soon, and their watercolor pencils. So, okay, back to the watercolor. So their paper, I like their paper. It's very comparable to my favorite, which is the Canson XL. It is 140 pounds. It's close to white, but again, I don't like my watercolor paper to be white. Again, I'm different when it comes to this. When it comes to the case, it is a magnificent metal case that they come in. It's very strong. It's very durable. You have lots of room to do mixes. Now that flap to the left, it does go down to the table, so it will angle down. So if you put something at the top, it could drip. So it doesn't stay flat. Now this piece that I'm pulling out, absolutely it does come out. You always want to, whether they're colored pencils, watercolor pencils, watercolors, you always want to make your own sheet, color chart, so to speak, which I did. It does come with a water brush, which I do not use in this video. I have used their watercolor brushes before and they're good. So this is the color chart that I made. You can see I have the color heavy at the top and then I pull it down with water. That's what I'm looking for. What's the difference in the colors? How does it move? Again, I am not a watercolorist, so I look at this, and I used my Faber-Castell Pitt pen to write, and I actually wrote that first before I put my watercolor down, because then that tells me how transparent is it. So let's get started. We're going to start playing around. Now, again, I am not a watercolorist. I will link to a video that Lindsey, the Frugal crafter, did, and she did a review on these. Now again, she is definitely a watercolorist. She is a true artist when it comes to watercolors. Could watch her all day. She did a review on these, and she does go into a little bit more detail if you are on that level. So I will definitely link this somewhere, either on the screen or down in the description. I just do basic movements, what I call basic movements. I want to see how the colors are going to blend, how they mix, how they react to water. So you can see I put two colors down on either side, merge them together. Now I want to see how they flow when they dry. I put down clean water in a square shape. Now I'm just literally tapping it with color. I want to see how the color moves, and you can see these colors, in my opinion, have great movement. They are absolutely moving in the water. It's instantaneous. I don't have to force it to move. It just needs the paper, again, just need the paper to be wet. This paper here I found handles a lot of water awesomely. Doesn't pill quickly. Some watercolor papers, they will pill almost instantaneously. I am one that I will constantly, if I'm not doing a background where I'm dropping or just putting dots on a page or splattering, if I'm actually coloring an image, which I will show later on, I use water. There's a lot of water that I'm pulling in, and I'm lifting it off and everything else. So you'll see, it does not pill. Mixing together colors to me worked very fine. Now again, I'm only showing one, but I did play around with this before. But the colors do mix very well. There is a blue that I thought had granulation. I think it's comparable to ultramarine. Here for the green, I'm literally just putting a section down and then using my brush to pull it back up so that I could have a solid coverage. No blending, not darker at the top, darker at the bottom. I wanted to see how that would hold. And again, it did very well. Here I'm kind of off screen. Yes, thank you. So here again, I'm just putting down some clean water and wanting to see how the paint will react once I drip that back in. You can see the one square, I have one color in the center or in the one corner, and then I pulled in a darker blue around it. There I'm looking to see how that color is going to merge with the other one that's down in the bottom left-hand corner. For a circle, I'm looking, okay, I have a color sitting there. What happens if I put a color in the center of it? Is it going to bloom? Is it going to push that color away? Is it going to blend and bleed together? So that's what I'm looking for. So again, very basic movements when it comes to pigment and water. So watercolor. Here I'm kind of off screen there. I really zoomed in for you guys, but I'm putting water against something that dried. I did dry these with my heat gun. So what I'm doing is I'm taking water, clean water in my brush, and I'm going to go across these areas. I want to see if I can lift it. Why am I checking to see if this pigment is going to lift after I put water? In case I go outside the line. That's the true, honest reason why I do it. These do lift a little bit. But again, there's always ways to fix that if we should go outside the line. There are a lot of times where I am embossing my lines when it comes to watercolor. But there is a time where I take the plunge and I just use a stamped image. I don't emboss it. And you'll actually see this. We're going to do that in this video. I'm mixing together a cool red and a cool blue from this set so that I can get a purple. Again, showing that off of screen, I need to remember that you're not seeing this. But I'm also looking, as I mixed it in the pan, what I do is I take those same two colors and I merge them together, and I want to see how that's going to look. It's just something that I do. I really don't have that reason for it. It's just something that I'm curious about. This is the color that I can get when I mix them. Can I get that same effect just by pushing the two colors together? That's what I'm kind of looking at. And you can see I am getting that. Playing with this set, I really like it. I think it is an extremely good set. And for me, it is perfect. Again, yes, I do have a QOR set. They are my favorite. I do have the Mission Gold. I think these are very comparable. Extremely comparable. What I also like is they are at a very good price point. This 36 pan set, when I went on the website, is showing for $35, $34.99. And in a moment, towards the end of the video, I do have a special surprise. So make sure you stay tuned on that. So continuing to play with these. So now I just have these 4" by 4" cards that I've cut out of the Arteza's watercolor paper. And now I'm just going to make some backgrounds, because that's what I really do a lot of times with watercolors, is I will create backgrounds. And they're usually the blended backgrounds, such as this. So I'm taking 3 colors. I'm actually using the scarlet red, I'm using the golden yellow, and then I'm going to come in with cadmium yellow. from the set. And I just want to see how these blend. Can I get a smooth variegation from the lightest color to the darkest? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Now, one of the things that I do when it comes to this type of background, remember, when watercolors dry, they will dry lighter than what's on your paper when you first start. So the first layer, I always let that dry. I did use my heat tool. I figured it was better to keep all this in than you watching me dry it with my heat tool. So I took that out. And I layer. And I keep layering so that I can get a darker, more vibrant background if that's what I'm looking for. I will say this is actually 2 to 3 layers of the watercolor with the layers drying in between. And it stayed to that color, so I was very pleased with that. For this square here, I'm putting down some water, and I'm going to do what I love to do, drop. I'm just dropping. Now the brushes that I'm using are the Ranger. I have the entire Ranger set. Matter of fact, I have a couple of them. I think the Ranger brushes are really good. They've got a lot of snap to them. And I can get a nice point if I have to. Now, they're not a super point when it comes, but for my backgrounds, these are perfect. So now I'm just dropping colors in. I'm actually using the turquoise, and I am using the color Prussian green. I think I pronounced that wrong, I'm sure. And then I'm coming in with spring green. And again, I'm just dropping. I want to see what these colors are going to do. What they should do is actually continue, since the background is wet, they should continue to move and actually fill this piece up. Now, that's also dependent if I put enough color down. So keep that in mind. I am liking the way the turquoise color that I put down actually bloomed in the center of it. It didn't stay solid. Excuse me. It's like the water came in and pushed it out. So I'm adding some green in there. I want to see what that's going to do to that. Is it going to fill it in? Again, I am looking to see how these are reacting, how these are going to move based on the movements that I take when it comes to watercoloring. Just because you have a set of watercolors does not mean you have to be a watercolorist. We all have our mediums that we like. Now again, my favorite medium are colored pencils. Also watercolor pencils, because we've got the word pencil in it. Over the years, I have collected almost all of the sets, so of every maker. But I do like to watercolor as well. But again, I am proud to say that I am not a watercolorist. You don't have to be. You don't have to be that scene creator for cards. Do we have some wonderful creators out there that can do that? Absolutely. And I enjoy watching them. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to create exactly what they create, because we'll never be able to do that. We are our own unique creator in this field of card making or paper crafting. So we just need to remember that and not stress because our piece doesn't look like that. We all can work differently. So what I'm hoping is to say, okay, if you're interested in getting in watercolors, this is a nice starter set. I really did enjoy it. A lot of the things that you can do, I'm getting the same results from the other sets that I have. You can see here this background. There's a couple videos where I've created cards with this type of background. Now I used Distress inks for it. Same colors. I love these fall colors. Christina Werner got me into these colors when it comes to the fall, and it's just my go-to set now, or color scheme. Again, putting down the first layer, letting it dry, dropping in more colors on top of it, letting it dry, and just constantly building upon that. You can just see these colors come together into a solid panel. and I think they worked great. So, but that's the one thing that I do want to stress. You can watercolor. You truly, truly can watercolor. It all depends on what you want to watercolor. So just keep that in mind. And hopefully with the card that we make, because yes, believe it or not, we're going to add a card into this. That's why this video is extremely long. I wanted you to see all facets of what I can do with a watercolor set. So hopefully that's giving you some tricks, some tips along the way that could that you could also work with and give you the confidence, because whether you use these tricks or tips or anything else, it doesn't mean you can't do it. You truly can. So give it a try. For that last panel, I'm just splattering some water just to give some movement, and the colors do move as long as they are a little damp. And then I'm going to finally dry that. I want to see how far back that color is going to go. And it didn't go back too far because I have multiple layers on that. And again, the paper did not pill. So I pulled out a stamp set for my stash. This is a Concord and 9th. And I believe it is called You Are Enough. And I just love this flower. Now this flower, at first when I saw it, was intimidating because there's a lot of layers on it. It's overlapping. It's this and that. I let it go. I'm not worried about a light source. I'm not worried about those layers. I'm just going to go in and paint. The color that I'm using is magenta from this set. So how I start out, I did not emboss this piece. I actually just used my VersaFine black. That is the color, the stamp or the ink that I use when I do watercolor. And I did not use my clear embossing powder. So we are going to just watercolor on this piece. What I always do in this case, I'm putting water down first. Now you can see it's already got a pink tint because that's the color that I was using most in my jar, and that's okay. You should have clean water. I'm good if it's not. I'm going to color it anyway. Now, depending upon the color, it could alter your shade. I'm good with that as well. So putting water down first, and what I'm doing is I'm coming in with more color on the tip of my brush just to fill it in. There's a certain level that I want this color to go. Once I have that base layer down, I want to let that dry. So I am going to pull in my heat gun and I am going to dry that. Now I don't have this taped down to a board. I didn't think it was necessary. I wasn't creating a background, and it wasn't the entire piece that I was doing this. Should I have taped it down to a board? Yes. Excuse me. Absolutely. Because as you keep adding water to this, the paper is going to buckle up. Taping it down helps to keep that flat. Once that's dry, now I'm going to come in with another layer. But now I'm going to start creating my shadows. So once I have a line where I want the darkest to be, I go back in with clean water. I tap some of the clean water off onto that towel that's to my right there. I'm even doing it after I have color on my brush. And then I'm pulling it out with water. That's how I get my blend. So you can see I go into where I want the shade. I go in to my clean water. I tap some off. And then I come and pull it out to blend it to the edge of where the other color is. So you're going to see that base color that I have. It may get a little darker, but it's not going to get too much darker. The darkness is going to come at the points where the shadows are. So again, clean water, and if I want that light, I'm going to go back into it and pull back down into the darker just a little bit. So again, the dark color goes into where I want the shade. I go into my clean water, and then I pull it out. I let the water do the work. I just make sure that the water's going to the edge, so it has all of that ability to move. I'm going to do that with each of these sections, and I'm just going to pick and choose. Again, this could be intimidating because there's shadows, there's bends in this flower. You know, one area should be darker than the other. This is coming here. Think of this flower as a piece of stained glass. So you could actually do each section of this flower a different color if you wanted to. So I am not one to stress on light sources. I just do what looks best. It confuses me. It truly, truly does confuse me. And I don't want to be confused when I'm creating. I want to enjoy it. And trust me, I did. I was there. So you can see I put the dark color down again. And what I'm doing with this color, I went to the shade of the pan set, and I am not going to be able to pronounce this. Amaranth, I think. Yeah. It is just a darker shade than the magenta, and I'm mixing that within the magenta to get that blend. So this is the third layer that I'm putting on. So you can see I'm constantly building. I'm trying to keep that one petal that's flipping up, I'm trying to keep that light. That one I did want light because it's like the underneath of the petal, or at least that's how I was seeing it. I wasn't doing a good job with it. We're good. We let it go. Again, pigment, most of the pigment goes into the corner. I go into my water, clean out my brush. I dip off my brush to get some of the excess off. I don't want a lot of water on my brush at that time. And I'm pulling it out. I'm looking at the next area. I haven't touched this one section in a while, so now I'm just going to go from that lightest pink to this darkest color. And I'm going to pull that up. So a little bit down, I go into my water. I tap some of it off onto my paper towel. And then I keep pulling it. And you can see, even as I had some of that pigment as I was pulling it, I went straight to the paper towel to get some of that pigment up. A brush is going to sop up as you continue to use it if you don't have a lot of water down onto the piece. It will pick it up. So again, as my brush, we call them thirsty brushes, or that's the term that I've heard. I want some of that. I don't want it to be dry, but I don't want a lot of heaviness in there. So you can see this one's going to have a bigger variegation coming across, but again, I'm not looking for harsh lines. That's what I'm trying to move away from. By putting the pigment down and going back into my water, I'm removing that harsh line. If, as this is drying, as I'm continuing to work through this flower, and I see a harsh line, I'm going to real quick come back with a clean brush to try to pull that out. So that's what I'm looking at. You can see I am constantly turning and moving my piece. And you want to do that. You want to be able to turn and move this. For me, if I'm watercoloring and doing this blend, it's easier to come towards me. If I am using a flicking motion to get lines or veins in a leaf, or if I'm using like my alcohol markers, it's easier for me to flick away from me. So it all depends on what I'm doing, of which direction I'm going to go and how this piece is going to turn. So again, notice what I said. It works better for me. It's more comfortable for me. It might be more comfortable for you to work away from you during this technique. You need to do what's most comfortable for you. So you can see we've got all of these blends. Now there's just one more final layer that's going to come in, and that's really just going to be at the very base of each of these dark blends that I have. I've taken sepia, or excuse me, not sepia. I took mahogany, and I mixed a little bit of that with the darker of the pink, because I can't pronounce that name. And I'm just going to put that down into these corners. So again, pink, brown. Even though it's mahogany, it's brown. It looks brown. There's just a red tint to it. And I'm going to add that. That's going to create the darkest of the depth. Do not be afraid of black. Do not be afraid of dark brown. And do not be afraid of indigo. They are, for me, the three best colors to add a final shade, to get it darker, to get it to where you want it to be. I do it in watercoloring. I do this in colored pencils. I don't do it with alcohol markers. I'm still playing around with my alcohol markers. But when it comes to watercoloring and colored pencils, yes, those are my three colors that I will use to add a dark tone to. And I'll use them straight just to get that darkest of tone. This, I just wanted it to be a little softer, so that's why I did mix it into the pink. And it's a beautiful color, and it matches perfectly. So you can see, as you keep building it, you get your shades. You get the dimension of the flower. How long did this piece take me to color? This took me about, I'm going to say a half hour to paint. Between drying it in between and everything that you saw. I did not take anything out of this. There was very little. This, I wanted you to see me drying it with the heat gun so you could see how far it was going to go back. But because of the layers, it's not going to dry back too far. So you can see what that brown did. It just added a hint of color to it. So, to surmise, I really enjoyed these. I really enjoy the paper. Now, the paper actually comes in sets of 2. So you would get 2 paper pads. That would be 64 sheets. They are 9 by 12, and they are $23. Yes, $22.98. I think it's a really good watercolor paper. Now, for the pan set, it is a 36 pan set. I like the colors. I like the way they blend. I like the way they move. That, to me, is important. It could be something so basic with watercolors, but it is something that I do look at. This set was $35, or is $35. Now, there's one more thing that they had sent to me when they contacted me to ask if I would review these products, and of course, yes. They sent me a set of bone folders. Now, we all use bone folders. We have to have our creases in our paper for when we fold it over. Now, this set comes with 4. They don't sell them individually. They do come in a set of 4. Now, also know that some of these folders quilters use. I have many of the 2 that are to the left there, because I did use them on my fabric. So, we're going to play with those in a second. So let's get the card ready. So I put the card in my stamp positioner, and I'm going to use the sentiment, "You are loved." And I'm going to have that be above and cross over the flower. So I'm going to use the one that looks normal to us. And I'm just going to put that down. I get a nice line. It's no different than the lines that I get. Now, my favorite paper creaser is my tonic. I don't know. I think it's just the way that it looks. The other one that I'm absolutely in love with was a gift, and that was a Stampin' Up! One. So those are my 2 favorite. I think these are very comparable. Now, some of these do have a sharper point, or, you know, when it comes together, but I'm putting pressure down on these. It's not cutting through the paper. The paper that I am using here is Stampin' Up! Very black, or basic black, and I'm not cutting through it. It does give a nice paper crease. They fold easily, and it doesn't crack the paper. Now, if you use true paper in this, yes, any bone folder is going to cut right through this. So this is cardstock that I'm using it. And again, it's by Stampin' Up. It's their cardstock that I'm using. When I cross over, it's not creating any holes. They are a nice weight. They're thick. They're durable. They don't bend too much. I mean, I grab one and I try to break it. That's what I do. Couldn't do it. There are some out there where, yeah, you can grab it. And there I am. I'm trying to do it. Where you can break them. So to me, I don't want that. And you can see it did not crack the paper. So I think if you're looking for bone folders and have spares, the set of 4, that set of 4 is about $15. And again, I'm getting these prices from their website. And they have multiple websites, and of course you can go through Amazon as well. I will have them linked down below, so that wherever you are, you will be able to order from them. So I took my watercolor panel and I placed it onto a black panel. Now my watercolor panel is 4x4, and I've cut the black panel underneath to be 5 by 3 3/4 because I wanted my watercolor panel to extend over it. I found some scrap gold metallic paper, and I'm putting it at the top and the bottom. Of course, the top is a little shorter just for some difference and it being unique. And then I'm going to grab some Nuvo drops in black and my bright gold, and I put the gold outside the flower, and I highlighted the little tiny dots that were on the flower itself with my black. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you if you were looking at this set, if you were curious about it, if you just wanted to have some more information, here you go. I really did enjoy it. I think it is a good set. I think it is a set that I'm going to grab often, so I'm sure you're going to see it in other videos. I think it's at a great price point. I think it is, you know, again, I am one that if you have a Crayola paint set, use Crayola. It can work. Absolutely. But this is close to an artist grade. It is considered a student grade. So I think it is perfect for what you're looking to do. If you are looking again to do the landscaping scenes and so forth, this would be a good place to start until you want to graduate to the paint set that you're looking for. So I do recommend it. Again, the link will be down below. I do recommend their paper. It's good paper. It's very comparable to my favorite, which is the Canson XL. It did not pill. It's very thick. It's good quality, and it's close to white. I like the off-white color when it comes to my watercolor paper. I don't want bright white sometimes, or for most of the time. And the bone folders, if you're looking for a set while you're there, I think they're great as well. So A+s all across the line, absolutely. Also know I have a coupon code for you. So if you, when you go to one of their sites, and I'll have them listed, make sure you choose the one that's for your area. If you type in Desiree Coomerly 1, you will receive an extra 10% off of your order. So please enjoy the coupon code. That code will be good until December 31st of 2018. So if you make your purchase after that, it will no longer be valid. All right, so again, Desiree Coomerly 1, again, that will be listed down in the video description. So make sure you check that out as well. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All the products that I used, of course, will be listed in the video description. And don't forget, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, but make sure you don't forget to subscribe. There's going to be many more videos coming, and a couple more reviews for Artezas. There was a couple more things that they sent to me that I was even curious about, so I got to play with those as well. I hope everyone has a great day. Enjoy the upcoming holiday if you do celebrate, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative. Always be creative.